Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for July 15th. I'm your host, Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday. Big Brother 27 live feeds. It was day 7 in the house, and with me to talk about it all is Maggie. How you doing, Maggie?
I'm doing great. Taran, we're so back. We've never been more back. I'm really loving what I'm seeing so far. My first season of Big Brother was BB13, and I always say, like, my narrative arc with my first season was I started and I watched Rachel screaming at this woman named Cassie, and I was like, who is this insane person? And by finale night, I was jumping up and down, screaming and cheering when she won. So this is a really big deal for me personally to get to see her on the feeds, because the only season I wasn't a feedster for was one. I started watching feeds in 14th. So I'm really just so excited. This feels like a dream come true, and I'm ready to get started because there's a lot that went on yesterday.
Yes. Yeah, let's just hope this isn't your last season, so you don't bookend it.
It won't be. There's no way.
All right. Well, as you mentioned, Maggie, there's plenty to talk about here today. Of course, the second full day, or really the first full day of feeds. Of course, to set you up here, Vince is the HOH. He nominated Amy, Ashley, and Zay for eviction. I guess, by the way, we are learning more and more about what happened when there were not feeds, including the shower incident, which, according to multiple people now, was probably like 15 minutes.
15 minutes with then a bunch of game talk after,
right?
Which Hamster Watch said, like, I guess it wasn't very good game talk, which period. But I do love the way that everybody online has started to be like, feeds will be up in one Ashley shower, like everybody's measuring their time in Ashley showers, which I am getting a pretty good kick out of.
It's just like, I mean, it should not be surprising, but weirdly is, I think, for a lot of people, just how misleading the edit can be when you do not have feeds. The implication that the shower was 2 hours and that it actually is probably about 15 minutes and they hung out up there. That's pretty far from what they showed us. And so many people took it to be just like concrete, hard reality. I think is a good reminder.
I don't understand how they did that, because even when we were watching them talk about it, it started as like a 30-minute shower and then an hour. And then like later they were like, well, who takes a 2-hour shower? Like we watched the way that they exaggerated. So everybody was here for BB24, weren't they? What's going on?
You'd think so. But of course, we know that Ashley won the power of veto, and that means that she is going to be taking herself off the block at the veto ceremony, which happened that day, today, day 7 of the Big Brother 27 live feeds. And that means that Vince is going to have to name a replacement nominee. Now, we talked yesterday about all of his various options, meaning he has only one option for himself, and that is his own closest ally, Kelley.
Vince, king of evicting your own alliance. Yes, let's go. We're so back.
However, Jimmy, King Jimmy, had his own opinion on who should be nominated, and he thought that Keanu was the better pick. And so he pushed Vince fairly hard to try to get Keanu nominated, because Keanu had been pushing for Jimmy to be nominated himself, and that he was going to be gunning for Jimmy. So this went back and forth a bit for Vince, but he did land on Kelley the night before. However, at the start of day 7, things got messy. And that is because Jimmy, he's just too real, Maggie.
No hugs. Absolutely. He does not give hugs freely or undeserved. Okay. He doesn't.
Yeah.
The only thing fake about him are his designer sunglasses.
Exactly. Dressed as Quinn described, like he's from the Sons of Anarchy. Jimmy decided to.
No, I'm so sorry. I have to reinterpret for everybody who understands. No, he's dressed like a Bushwick gay. Come on. Like, let's be real here. Not from Sons of Anarchy.
There you go.
He's going to Animal. Anyways. Please.
He rejected a hug from Keanu in the morning. He said, "Tyler Crispin, who?" And Keanu was not pleased. He said, "Where is my hug?" And it is not here. And Keanu was very upset because the fact that Jimmy did not want to hug him indicated to him correctly that he had been exposed for all of his anti-Jimmy dealings the day before. Mm-hmm. Now, should he be surprised about this, considering he told roughly half the house about how adamantly he wanted to target Jimmy?
Taran, stop. Taran, you don't understand. He told his alliance of 10 people. Okay? So, no, that shouldn't have gotten out. It was his alliance of 10 people. Come on.
Exactly. He told his alliance, this alliance that he has been trying to build, that is consisting of roughly 10 or so people. But he also told a couple of other people, including Morgan and Rachel. But he told genuinely, like, at least half of the house what he was doing, including many men. However, he was sure it must be one of the women that he told that exposed his plan to Jimmy, including Morgan, Mickey, Rachel, and various other women that he suspected along the way, without ever really suspecting any of the guys who actually did rat him out, like Zach or Reilly or
Zay.
Zay, exactly. So Keanu, on a bit of a warpath, is going to accuse many of these people, including Morgan, for ratting him out. Now, he does, I will admit, have a reason to suspect Morgan, considering that shortly after he talked to Morgan, she openly had a fairly intimate conversation with Jimmy in the backyard, which was the conversation they had after the argument upstairs in the HOH room that I talked about last night, where they kind of made up, and it was clear that they were making up in that conversation. And so Keanu was like, that was pretty sketchy. That looked pretty sketchy, Morgan. That looked pretty sketchy. Now, she did not rat him out in that conversation, but that's only because he had already been ratted out by Zach and Zay and all of the other dudes.
Yes. And sorry, people in the chat are asking for the chart, if we can put it up.
Yes, we do have the chart. I'd been holding back because it has the results of the veto ceremony, but the chat is correct. I'm already talking too much to be waiting for it. So let me pull it up.
I'm sorry.
Here.
I should have trusted your flow, Taran.
No, this was a correct decision. I was like, I'm gonna wait and put it up when I talk about the veto ceremony. But the problem is that too many things happened before the veto ceremony.
Sure.
So if you are watching along, you can see what Vince eventually decided to do, which should not be that surprising. However, all of this nonsense.
I'm so sorry. Before we got on, I was thinking, I was like, there are very few sins of Big Brother that Taran will not forgive. One of them, whispering in the HOH room. The second one, nominating your closest ally, unforced.
Yeah, very true. That is very true. I will not deny it.
Keep it moving. I'm sorry.
So Keanu is not pleased with Morgan, and he suspects that she has ratted him out. He confronts her about it. She is flustered by this confrontation. She tries to tell him, "I'm genuinely not ratting you out. In fact, it's kind of wild that he is accusing her, of all people, considering that she is one of the few people in the house right now who actively is trying to prevent him from going up on the block because she wants to work with him against Jimmy, because despite the making up with Jimmy the night before, not a fan of Jimmy and the way that he conducts himself in the alliance. And she's hoping that she can find a way to evict Zay this week and not have Amy or Kelley or even Keanu go. However, Keanu, I think we are learning about Keanu, or at least I am, that he has a tough time adapting to new information. I think that he generally seems to have like a set idea of where the house is, where he is, what his read on the house is. And anytime he gets new information, he goes, oh, well, that puts me at square one. That's frustrating. Even if it's information that's good for him or bad for, like, it doesn't matter what the information is. He's just like, oh, well, how do I fit that into my current like system of understanding things? And I think what I've found is that his method of fitting it in is that he slowly just lets it filter through and then forgets about it and continues to believe what he believed before.
Well, yeah. And also he believes anybody's explanation at face value of what it is. It's like, oh, so you weren't actually going after me. You just mentioned one offhand comment at one point and then it became a game of telephone. Like, he's much more comfortable. And I do think this is Vince's problem too. Much more comfortable living in the reality that he's decided is true than opening up his mind and being adaptable and being like, okay, this is new information. Now let me readjust my expectation.
Yeah, I think a more accurate way of saying it would be that, like, we talked about his 10-person alliance. He has this idea of creating a 10-person alliance and having that be the alliance. And any information that gets in the way of that plan, he has to figure out how to neutralize because he wants to stick to the plan. So, like, for him, the details of is Jimmy after me, is Jimmy not after me are not important. What's important is that he has the plan. And so that seems to be the thing for Keanu. And so part of this plan is that it does not include Jimmy. It does not include Morgan, and it does not include Rachel, because he, after sort of starting to believe that maybe Morgan did not rat him out, thinks, well, then it must have been Rachel, because he talked to Rachel that night as well about how he, wanted to keep Kelley and he was like anti-Jimmy. And so he is now dead set that Rachel must be, the one that did this to me. And Morgan and Mickey, who he's talking to, are like, well, I don't think so. I think that's true. And you kind of think that they're getting through to him, but then he goes and talks to Adrian and he's like, they're lying to me. I know it. It's an alliance. It's an alliance of Jimmy, Morgan, Mickey, Rachel, Amy, and Ashley.
Sure. Okay, I'm so sorry. I just also need to point out the absurdity of Keanu being like, I told half the house about my plans to target Jimmy, including 3 of the 6 people not in my 10-person alliance. So yeah, it must be the 3 people not in my 10-person alliance rather than like, but why would you tell them in the first place? You can understand that logic. You can understand why you'd be like, oh, it must have been the people not in my alliance. But then why did you tell the people not in your alliance that you were targeting another person outside of the alliance?
I mean, that's a good question, Maggie. I don't know the answer.
Maybe one day you will, Taran.
Keanu goes on to say that because he thinks those 6 people are in an alliance, he thinks it's very important that the outcasts of the house, the other like 10 to 11 people in the game, form an alliance of their own, that he would love to call the Outcasts, but that's probably copyright. So what was the other one? I don't remember what he wanted to do instead. It was something like, it wasn't the Isle of Misfit Toys, but it was reminiscent of it in my mind. So Keanu is doing this. Morgan ends up crying after he confronts her, which is part of the whole. It's very publicly crying after he confronts her, which spreads all over the house.
I I also want to, I don't want to stop down too much. We have so much to get through, but I have noticed with Morgan, we'll get to more of it later in the night, but she's been having a hard time with the social part of it where you are going to brush up against people and people are going to maybe call you out for certain things or say certain things. Like she was really, really bothered by what Jimmy had said the night before about like, you're dismissing me. She brought it up, 5 or 6 times to different people throughout the day and was like, I know I need to work on this. She's very bothered by what happened with Keanu this morning. That persists the rest of the day. There's a bit of a spiral that happens. The crying, all of that. She's having, I think, a hard time with the understanding that people in Big Brother are not going to like you, which I totally understand. That would be the hardest thing for me as well. But I do think that that's something that if we're looking at Morgan holistically as a game player, that's something that I have my eye on.
Yeah, she did seem to be struggling throughout the day, which I think is largely due to the fact that her main alliances, so the major relationships that she has in the house, are with people who do not agree with her, and also like to a decent degree don't seem to respect her opinion, and that's pretty frustrating. And so then when she tried to like branch out and talk to somebody else and get something else going on, he immediately freaked out and accused her of ratting him out. So she is struggling a little bit with that, but I do still have to commend her for continuing to push in the direction that she wants to go. I think that's a rare quality in a player, and we'll see if it helps her out moving forward. So with everything Keanu is doing, he's also, as I mentioned, going around to various people, trying to pull them into alliances. He's also going to get in trouble with Reilly for talking too much. And all of this is culminating into Kelley going upstairs to a sleeping Vince to say, hey, Keanu is making a big mess right now. Everyone's mad at him. Maybe he goes up instead of me. And
at least she had that instinct,
She really did kind of fight before this veto ceremony. I was really hoping someone would make a fool of themselves and make a big mess before this happened, so that there would be another person to put up and look, it happened. This is exactly look at what happened. Maybe you should do this. And of course, Vince is kind of like, yeah, I think I should probably have to talk to some other people first, though.
That's a good Vince impression, actually. That surprised me at how I was like, oh, feels like I'm watching.
Unfortunately, Vince has been drilled into my brain for the last 36 hours. So, of course, this did seem to open the door briefly, because we know that Jimmy is going to be pushing for Keanu pretty hard. And Jimmy, by the way, is seeing that Keanu's pissed about the hug, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just too real. I'm too real to hug people. Why is it? Oh, come over here and hug me. I don't want to hug you. Come on, what's happening right now? And dressed as Maggie described him, I don't remember what she said, he storms
like
through
he's
the
going
house.
to Animal.
Storms through the house storms through the house, and he's looking for someone, and you're like, who's he looking for? And he goes into the backyard and he says, Rachel, can I talk to you? And it's like, whoa. Rachel follows him upstairs into what used to be the have not room, is now a gym. She's like, are you mad at me? And he's like, no. She's like, oh, I thought you were going to yell at me. He's like, no, sorry. I need your advice. He's like, oh, okay. It's like, I want to call Keanu out at the veto ceremony. And you can see Rachel's face just light up, like, oh.
It was like the Cheshire Cat smile, like slowly moving up.
She says, listen, I love that for TV.
Mm-hmm. She says, I mean, it would be a moment.
So Jimmy preps this whole speech that he's gonna give. He's like, as soon as the box closes, I'm gonna be like, wait, and go off on Keanu and talk about, as Maggie said, how nothing is fake about him except for his designer sunglasses. He rehearses this speech. He also is going to talk to Vince about it and let him know, hey, I'm gonna be doing this speech. And Vince is like, oh, that's cool. And so then Vince.
I don't understand. Sorry, I am going to say, I don't understand. This is my first like really big confusing moment of the day. Is Jimmy comes in after pushing really hard for Keanu all night, after now getting all of this information that he made Morgan cry, all of this stuff. And he goes to Vince and he's like, I know you're not going to change your nominations. So I'm just going to let you know that I'm doing this. And I do feel like he really missed an opportunity. I feel like if he had sat there with 20 minutes with him and gone through it, Vince would have caved and probably put up Keanu.
Well, so yeah, I mean, so here's kind of like, because I agree. I thought that he was going to come in and make another push, but he did come in instead, and this may have been a tactic by him to be like, I know you're going to do this, but I hate Keanu so much, and he is after me so much that I'm going to be doing a whole speech against him in the veto ceremony. You're still not going to put him up for me, like when he's going to come for me like that much. Might have been a tactic, might have been genuinely just, I give up on it, here's my plan. But after he talks about that, Vince gets into his whole spiel about, well, you know, here's why I think this is a good decision. It's because, you know, if we start counting the votes, then I think I've got like 1, 2, 3. I think I've got like 7, maybe 8 votes for Kelley to stay. So that's pretty good. And Jimmy's like, what are you talking about? You don't have some of those votes.
He's if like, Kelley goes home.
Kelley goes home. I'm voting Kelley. Yeah. And somehow, and Vince, I'm not kidding. After listing out 7 of the 14 votes, and Jimmy says multiple people in that list are at the very least not confirmed, if not anti-Kelley. Vince goes, oh.
I have a theory, and I did text this to Puya yesterday as we were suffering through this. I said, so like, he hasn't seen the show, right? Like, he doesn't watch live feeds. Like, there's no way that he watches live feeds and doesn't know. We'll get to this later, but like, there's a conversation that he has with Rachel later that I was in tears. I was laughing so hard. I was like, we're 6 days into an HOH reign and you're learning literal Big Brother 101 and you say that you watch feeds? I don't understand.
I mean, I was feeling the same way, and then I saw all of the people that just like fully bought into the edited narrative of the episode on Sunday, and I'm like, okay.
No, because also I do feel like at minimum, if you're somebody who's been watching feeds since BB18, you've at least heard of this podcast and heard of you in some way and consumed some content. And I just cannot believe that this person like is as into it as they are claiming to be.
Not everyone agrees with me.
You're very right. But we'll get to it later. We'll put a pin in this.
All right. Well, so after being informed that maybe it's not a good idea to hope that if you are going to put your closest ally on the block, that you should rely on 7 of the 14 votes to keep them safe, Vince starts to go, well, maybe I should do Keanu. But I probably need to talk to, like, apparently he's made Morgan cry. I should probably talk to Reilly, who's apparently pissed off at him, and I should probably talk to Morgan. And at this point, you know, of course, I'm watching, and I'm like, oh, if he talks to Reilly, like, Reilly is pretty pissed at Keanu, but if he talks to Morgan, Morgan will talk him back off of this cliff. So this is all about, like, at this point, this veto ceremony is in like an hour or so. So there's not a lot of time, and this could definitely go in either direction. So, of course, Jimmy runs and grabs Reilly, the person he anticipates will push for the Keanu nomination. And they talk. And that's exactly what Reilly does. He talks about how annoyed he is at Keanu. Now, we do learn some interesting information, which is that according to Vince, when he talks to Reilly, us, we're day ones. I don't want to make the Keanu move without your go ahead, he says to Reilly. They apparently have something going, or at least that's what Vince says. Reilly doesn't ever really reciprocate it all that much, but that's kind of who Reilly is as a player.
I have to be completely honest. I'm not going to really be able to weigh in much on Reilly because anytime the feeds were on him, I moved because there was no strategy conversation. There was none. I was like, I'm getting nothing.
To be fair to you, the feeds moved from this conversation. Sure. We didn't see a lot of it. But then Catherine ends up coming in and Vince starts asking Catherine about Keanu. And she says, yeah, he's pissing everyone off. And Vince says, well, should I just put Keanu up on the block? And Catherine starts to hem and haw because she doesn't want to make that call. When Keanu walks in the door and Vince is like, hey, Keanu, can I just have like 10 minutes? I'm trying to get Catherine's opinion on something. And Keanu's like, with Reilly in the room? Because Reilly is still there. And he goes, what? You want to get her opinion on something privately with Reilly in the room? Like Reilly can be here and I can't? And Vince is like, you're right. You could stay.
Which absolute icon level lack of social awareness going on here. Because yeah, great thing to notice. And then you say, okay, and you close the door and you say, well, that's bad for me. And they're all working together. And you say that in your head. You don't say that and confront the HOH an hour before his nominations.
I do agree with you because Vince comes away from this conversation and he tells Rachel, Keanu bullied me today.
Oh, he did say bullied.
So obviously he was not fond of this interaction. However, I will say there's, I think, a caveat here, which is that there are specific circumstances where getting in there and talk blocking might actually be worth it for the short term if there really was like, because this was a last minute kind of situation. If the veto ceremony is in 20 minutes and there's a conversation happening that, Vince needs confirmation from other people in order to make a move to put up Keanu, and Keanu is able to interrupt those conversations and prevent him from having them, it could be effective.
But that's not what he was doing. Like, yeah, no. Totally. If that's what he was doing, like if he was pulling an Ozza and Big D going up with Brittany, then I would be like, yes, amazing. But he was just like, what the hell? Am I not your friend? And it was like, ugh.
You are completely correct. Just not to completely poo-poo the idea of the filibuster in certain scenarios, but yeah, this one certainly was. Keanu had no idea that he was in trouble. This was not.
No.
What I'm saying is not what he was doing at all. So that interrupts that conversation. Then he ends up getting pulling out with Rachel to have a conversation with her. That's when he says, Keanu just bullied me. And I was bullied my whole life. And I don't know what bullying feels like. And then
later he tells Kelley, like, I just really wanted it to be different in here. I just really didn't want to be one of the losers and not one of the cool kids. And I really was like playing my sad, tinkly piano music, smallest violin, like you are in charge, but I digress. That's when if I'm editing the show, I cut to the I can keep the gnat caged for us comment that he makes about Kelley.
So he talks to Rachel and he says, what should I do? Keanu's pissing everyone off. Should I just nominate Keanu? And here I am watching the feeds. And from my perspective, and I actually still kind of feel this way, I'm thinking Rachel should want this to happen because Amy is on the block. And the best way to keep Amy safe this week without having to like fully go to war is if Keanu goes up, because Keanu would be a consensus target that everyone would be on board with. It would keep everyone calm and it would keep Amy safe for the most part. It would be much more safe at least. Whereas if Kelley goes up on the block, Vince is really, really dedicated to making sure that Kelley stays. And that means campaigning against Amy for the most part. And that's not ideally where I think Rachel should want to be. However, from Rachel's perspective, I believe she sees Kelley as a problem for her. Because Kelley is a problem for her, because Kelley hates Rachel Reilly. And in addition to that...
hold on. Kelley does say directly to Feedsters, I don't have a personal problem with her. I don't want her to watch this and think that I have a personal problem with her.
After spending about 20 minutes talking smack about Rachel, she goes, oh, everyone's going to think I hate Rachel.
Welcome to Big Brother.
So Kelley, not a fan of Rachel Reilly, and also just a supremely loyal number for Vince, which is just not good for anybody's game except for Vince, which is why he's putting her on the block, I guess. And so, so I came into this thinking Rachel's going to push for the Keanu thing to keep Amy safe. That's not what happened. In fact, it was the complete opposite. Rachel says, "Don't do that. Don't put Keanu on the block." And he's like, whoa, why?
She has this like very direct way of doing it. I don't think it was with as much urgency as you're giving. She basically was like, why would you do that? Why would you put him up? Like, what are you? And it truly was, this conversation to me is why I was like, Vince doesn't watch this show, because I watched the recognition of what a shield meant wash over his face. And I was like, what do you mean? You didn't think that this maybe keeping him around and everyone's mad at him could make him a target in front of you? Rachel basically walked him through the steps. It was amazing.
I don't want to do it, but I am going to defend Vince here a little bit. I do think he was playing up his naivety in this conversation.
I hope so. I really, really hope so, because it was amazing. But the reason that I was like, oh, he is not playing up his naivete is that he put his closest ally on the block. So I just was like, oh, this is like the level that we're working with.
Well, the way that I described it is like, just because somebody's playing up a certain portion of their personality in a conversation doesn't mean that it's still not like part of their personality, or that there's some kind of mastermind. Prime example being, this was like Angela's go-to move. like
sure.
When Angela would have these over-the-top reactions, obviously, I would say a good 80% of the time, at the very least, they were obviously real. They were genuine reactions. And then 20% of the time, she would randomly be like, yeah, I was faking it.
Angela, my beloved.
So anyway, regardless of that, Rachel does walk him through the idea, well, hey, Keanu has so many enemies. Why would you put him up? That's a good target for the house later on. Make other people take him out. The reason why I would say that I think he was playing this up is that he had already talked about this concept before, when talking about why he might keep Keanu around. But finally having somebody to directly tell him what to do seemed to lock him in, like, okay, thank you. I will definitely then do that. I will not put Keanu on the block. I'm going to put Kelley on the block. He then also has a conversation with Morgan where she basically says the same thing. Don't put Keanu up, put Kelley up. And that is what locks it in finally. And Vince does decide at the veto ceremony to nominate Kelley as the replacement nominee. Could you believe if I had waited this long to put the chart up?
I mean, I really, okay. This is when I was coming into this, I was like, we have basically 36 hours of feeds to base off of. I am very open to this being wrong. But the way that I kind of see Vince, the way that he was acting before, the way that he was acting after, like you so smartly pointed out, like Vince does not want this HOH power. Vince does not want to do this. However, that's a part of the game mechanics of Big Brother, is that you are going to eventually have to wield and hold power in some type of way. I totally understand not wanting the first HOH. However, he did win it. And to fumble this badly, I'm like, what is this person doing here? Like, does this person want to be playing Big Brother genuinely? Like, I'm like, I don't know if this is somebody who will enjoy this experience and not in a way where I can relate to that. I don't think I would enjoy at all being in the Big Brother house. I think it would be a miserable 80 something days for me. But I do think, like, if you want to talk about house guests without a killer instinct, like, this person, it is so worried about their social likability that they're willing to cut their game off at the knees, torso, neck, basically, to make sure that they're okay with everybody else.
Yeah, it's like, if you know that person in your life that like takes advantage of their friends and people that like them at every given opportunity in order to like impress people that they don't know or like very much, like that's kind of Vince, right? Like, in the game, at least.
Yep. Okay. See, I do think I'm maybe looking at this more gently and being like, perhaps Big Brother is not the right place for him, versus the way that you are categorizing it, which I don't think is wrong either. And I think that the rest of the season will show us which version of Vince we're getting.
Again, not to say that's who Vince is outside of the game, But I think what's so fascinating about Big Brother is how you can see things from real life that translate to the game mechanics, and you can hear more about that sort of thing in my book, Behind the Mirror.
Oh my gosh, I already got my signed copy. Very exciting stuff, Taran.
Thank you.
What's the website that people can go to?
TaranArmstrong.com. Very easy.
Yeah. Very pumped. I do think this is something that I'm gonna probably next time you see me, I'll have a better grasp on what I'm trying to say. But I do think that there are certain people, like I think that this is exactly what happened with Daniel Durston also in BB24 before he spiraled and just did all of his things. That there's a certain type of person who goes into Big Brother and is so concerned about the way that they look and like truly their social level that they are not thinking anything outside of that social level within the house, social level within the world. And those types of players, I just compared him to Daniel Durston, like misery to watch, misery. So I'm not saying that he will be acting the way that Daniel did, but it reminds me a bit of Daniel's first HOH, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and so Vince is going to spend much of the rest of the day campaigning for Kelley, which we'll talk about, but also like just so concerned, and this should not be surprising because he was so concerned about how he would look to other players depending on which person he nominated, but so concerned about how he is going to look to the fan base. Like, oh man, I'm just so worried that like everyone's, and he is actually in tears, by the way, at various points. Oh, I don't know. Are people gonna think I'm such an idiot? Like, am I gonna look like the stupidest player ever? I just know that like we're in the episode, like Rachel Reilly is gonna be like, I convinced Vince to put up his closest ally. It's like, that's not even like what happened. Like, if she goes home, that's gonna be my legacy in the game, is that if I won HOH and I evict my ally.
Taran, please stop. I can't take it.
I had to listen to it. I had to listen
to it. So did I.
I.
And that's why we're here, so they don't have to. This conversation also, like during the time that he's crying, it's because Kelley... Sorry, am I skipping ahead, or can we talk about
Feel free. I think from this point, like, there's not really a good linear story, so we'll kind of be a little more overview.
So after the veto ceremony, Kelley comes up and is sprinting around the room and has all of this energy and is like, it's Kelley, Adrian, and Vince. And she's like, thank you so much for doing this. I'm having so much fun. Can you imagine if this person who's never seen the show before, me, is a part of taking out Rachel Reilly, like, oh, who's a legend of this game. Can you imagine? You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to throw the Blockbuster competition. I'm going to throw it to Zay. So I can be against.
No, don't do that. Please don't, please, Kelley, don't do that.
Why not? Why not? Because then I'll be like Tucker. I'll be just like Tucker. And you know, my fresh perspective of the game will be that I get myself nominated and throw a competition to save me.
Yeah. Rachel Reilly came into the wrong house, because if Tucker was in this house, he would be worshipped.
Yeah. You want to talk about, what do you know about season 19? For real.
Yeah. He wouldn't have needed friendship bracelets.
No.
Yeah. So she does mention throwing the blockbuster. Blockbuster is too similar. It's you know.
Yeah.
Somebody else made that mistake in the house yesterday too. I think. So she talks about throwing the Blockbuster competition. Vince has to beg her not to, and she's like, "I'm just joking, but what if I did?" She's like, "Please," and she's literally, I'm not like, Maggie's not exaggerating. She's skipping around the room. I got to get this energy out. Like, oh man, wouldn't it be so great if I threw it though? What if I didn't throw it, but I said I did? You know, like, what about that?
She's a gnat. He's got to keep caged. And also during this conversation, I just need to like point this out. They were talking about Keanu, and Vince goes, "Yeah, he's really naive," and Kelley goes, "Yeah, he's not very good at this game." And I put on Blue Sky yesterday. I was like, I put the meme of, you know, two dumb bitches looking at each other saying, exactly. Like that. What? Kelley, you're likely going to go home. What?
Later in the day, Reilly tells Kelley that she's the smartest player in the house.
Well, from Reilly's perspective, she probably is.
She has some fresh takes.
Fresh takes for sure.
Kelley also spends much of the day talking about her fan base and what they call themselves and how Rachel's fans are going to hate her.
Sure. Kelley's fan base called her family.
Listen.
I saw that. I stole
Don't
that from
knock it.
someone online. I stole it from someone online. I wish I had come up with that myself. Yeah. Who are the Kel heads? I see that in the comments. Let's get Rap Sister Nino on this podcast. See if he's a Kel head. I'd love to hear his take.
Hear me. I would not be surprised if Kelley survives this eviction. I think she will, as long as she doesn't do something bad. Which, you know, I think she will accumulate a cult fan base. I think she's like quirky enough and strange enough.
I do believe you. That's the thing. I'm not going to push back on you. You've been in these streets. You've been doing the groundwork. You've been boots on the ground, Taran. I believe you.
I mean, it'll probably ebb and flow. Like, she needs to be evicted at a high point, and then she could come out the next, like, you know, not Caitlin Herman, but like. But
Caitlin Herman was always iconic. Let's not be crazy now, Taran.
It took people a couple weeks to jump.
Not this girl. Not this girl.
You're a visionary.
Just like Caitlin. Thank you.
So all right, so all that's happening now. Prior to the veto ceremony, there was an interesting conversation between Morgan and Mickey. They are pretty close. Obviously, Mickey not involved in the Heavy Hitters Alliance, but heavily involved with Morgan and to some degree Jimmy. And although I haven't really seen them talk much beyond that initial conversation on the first night of feeds, and they're talking about Jimmy and like how kind of anti-Jimmy they are. Mickey very much seems to be on board with like actually creating some kind of group that despite initially saying it was meant to be broken up, like probably just would actually develop some kind of group.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
with,
like Mickey is like has a good head on her shoulders and is like, that was a dumb idea. I'm just gonna do the thing that I should be doing, which is make a good group.
Yes. And so what they would love to do is work with Keanu and use him to take shots at people like Jimmy, and, you know, work with Rachel and her crew for now and all that sort of thing, because that just makes a lot of sense. But then with Keanu going around and being, you know, sort of out of control, like accusing Morgan of ratting him out and all that, it's becoming difficult. They have that conversation with Keanu. They try to get him back on board, but it doesn't quite work yet. But that's worth a conversation worth pointing out there. So we also are going to see when so the feeds come back from the veto ceremony, and Jimmy has called out Keanu. But by the time the feeds come back, the argument is over, which is what we're used to, and they're hugging and talking about how they're so glad they hashed it out and cleared up the misunderstanding, and that now they can move forward and not be mad at each other or be targeting each other. And, you know, reasonably, you could assume this is fake. It's not on Keanu's end, at least. Keanu fully is like, I'll take him at face value. It was a misunderstanding.
I will say, like, for all of the dunking on Keanu we've done this morning, like, he's like a wholesome kind of guy who like wants to take people at face value and like doesn't assume everybody's always lying.
Well, when it's Jimmy, when it was Morgan.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think that I just listened to him give the line to everybody about Jimmy, like for the rest of the day. So that's what's ingrained in my brain is like that takeaway. Not Keanu misting me.
He set it off, and listen, because this is what he was going around the house saying, man, I take people at face value. If they say it, I'll believe them. There was a different story in the morning, Keanu, but you can say it. So yes, so Keanu's like, all right, that's it. I'm down for it. And again, I was like, come on, this has to be a lie, right? But he really is telling everyone who will listen, including people he seemingly trusts, that he does believe Jimmy. But it doesn't really matter. Now, so the thing he's going around to saying is that we've cleared it up. We're no longer enemies. And oh, damn. Isn't that just so annoying, though? Because now I don't have anyone to put on the block anymore. I just like, who would I even put up anymore now? It's like, why are you saying this out loud?
Not only to like other people, but also he was like saying it to himself alone at one point.
Yeah.
He was like, I have no one to nominate. And I was like, what?
That's one of the scariest things you can hear from a player in the game. Because either they're right and they're just super well connected and a dangerous player, or they're wrong and they just don't know who to target and could end up randomly targeting you, because it's got to be somebody.
Keanu's mind, Taran, his mind. He's like Vanessa. He needs a reason. Okay. Keanu Rousseau. He needs a reason.
Keanu is going to be talking about these talking points for like the rest of the day.
And it's painful. What I have learned from watching this cast yesterday is some of them do not take a beat. They just don't. Keanu, Zay, Reilly, they say the same things over and over again. And I'm like, if I have to hear this one more time, I don't know. I like had to get up and take a walk at a certain point because I was like, I can't hear. I have no one to nominate, back at square one. Hate a game of telephone ever again.
Yeah. It's there were a lot of talkers in this house, and Keanu is certainly one of them. Part of what else he's saying here, though, is even though I've cleared it up with Jimmy, that doesn't change what I was saying before about our 10-person alliance. I just won't automatically nominate Jimmy if I'm the HOH. But those, those people outside of our 10.
Also, the 10, just to be clear, 2 of the 10 are Kelley and Zay, who could be facing a vote against each other at the end of the week.
Also, everyone who tried to keep him off the block is outside of the 10,
Yep.
and everyone who tried to get him on the block is inside of the 10. Except for Jimmy.
I just... The thing that makes me upset also about the way that they're talking about the nominees is like everybody's talking like Amy, there's no possible way she could ever win a competition. They've known this woman for 6 days.
I believe Zach's quote was, if Amy played a competition against herself, she'd still lose.
Like what? I was already rooting for Amy, but screw you guys. Amy, show them what's up. Like it's giving last year's AI Arena with Chemo when they were like, oh, there's no way Chemo will win, whatever. And then he whooped everybody. So yeah, I'm sorry. Very, very bothersome to me throughout the day. Did not like that tone at all that any of these guys were taking.
Amy winning the Blockbuster competition, I think, is the most fun result because it leaves Kelley versus Zay, and there are very, very strong feelings in both directions about who should go and who should stay in that case.
Definitely.
So the other thing that Vince is doing, as I mentioned, is campaigning for Kelley to stay, and that includes campaigning against Rachel. And this is part of why I felt like it was a bit of a mistake for Rachel to want to prevent Keanu from going up on the block, because not only is Keanu downstairs going, Rachel is the snake that betrayed me. But also what this means is that now Vince and anybody that wants to keep Zay around, like all of these people are looking at Amy as a viable option to campaign against in a more significant way. And so Vince is like, I'm really worried about the Amy versus Kelley scenario. And in that spot, I need to beat out Rachel in the campaign. And that means I have to be basically super anti-Rachel. And that's what he is becoming. Talking about how Rachel is, she's pushy. She told me what to do. Like, can you believe that? And how she's already won the game before, and she's a big threat. And this, she's had her time. And why is she so obsessed with Amy? I don't get it. Like, just let her go. And so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of anti-Rachel rhetoric being thrown around just because of the makeup of the nominees at the moment, and the fact that Rachel is attached to one of them.
Yeah, exactly. There is a lot of campaigning throughout the night. Like, I think that, and I'm sure that this will come way more into formation today and, before the episode on Thursday, before the, I was going to say battle back. So that's where my mind is at before I'm just going to call it the AI Arena. We
need the announcer to be in our head, like the BB Blockbuster.
Yeah, I just need to, by the end of the season, we'll get it, maybe. Remains to be seen. But I'm sure that you'll have a whole layout of who will vote where, whatever. But right now, the general sense that I'm getting is that it's very divided by gender lines. Like, the women are not into Zay or like this guy's thing that's happening, and they have their eyes open in a way that in a lot of other seasons they don't. Like, there's not a lot of pick-me's here. I'm feeling there. It's very, and I do think that it is partly because the guys are not playing very well and being incredibly obvious about their bro downs. But a lot of these women are specifically people like Mickey, Morgan, Catherine, Rachel, obviously, none of them are very interested in letting these guys move forward as a block in the game.
Yeah, I certainly don't have a solid sort of explanation of where the votes are right now,
Mm-hmm.
because it is very up in the air, I would
Yep.
say. And I think that over the course of today and tomorrow, we will see some of that solidify a bit more. But the general push is threefold, really.
Mm-hmm.
There's really, this is like a rock paper scissors right now.
Yep.
There is a huge push against Zay, and that's largely led by people like Morgan and Rachel, some of the women who would love to take out one of these bros. He's a threat. He doesn't get along with many of the women as well as he does with all of the bros.
Very good
And
at
so
chess.
very good at chess, teaches everyone how to play.
And was
Um,
playing, sorry, just very quickly, was playing with Morgan and kept pointing out, like, you're really good at this. Wow, you're really good at this. And I was like, she's a professional gamer, you fool.
yes. So there's a big push against Zay, but there's also a lot of people pushing for Zay to stay. A huge push to protect Zay. So that is also very strong, and that those two motivations clash pretty significantly. Then you have the Amy and Kelley situations. Amy, of course, Rachel really wants to protect Amy. But there's not a lot of other really strong pushes to protect Amy like there are Zay. It's mostly just Rachel. Even Ashley kind of goes around the house saying like, if she goes, she goes. Which, of course, isn't, I think, how she actually feels. I do think that she would love for Amy to stay. But unlike Rachel, Ashley thinks that it is in her best interests to play up kind of like the, I just met this woman. Like, I'm not dying on this hill. So not a huge push to protect Amy, but there is, again, a huge push to evict Zay. And there is also a decent amount of push to evict Kelley because not a lot of people like Kelley. So that's where like some of the pushback against the Amy eviction come from. But there is a small push as well to evict Amy, largely coming from players like Zach, who think that she's worthless because she can't win a competition and would love to see her leave. And players like Vince, who really wants to make sure that both his guy Zay and his girl Kelley are going to stick around. And that means that Amy needs to go. And there's this idea that by taking Amy out, you're taking a shot at Rachel and helping weaken her moving forward and making it easier to take Rachel out of the game. So that's sort of where things stand for Amy. And then Kelley is just kind of, at this point, the default pick to evict if you have any desire to not evict Zay or Amy. And that's because, like, if you tried to get Zay out but you couldn't manage it, then Kelley's a fine option. You'd rather Kelley go over Amy. Or if it's Amy versus Kelley, you'd much prefer Kelley to go because you don't really have a good relationship with her.
Yeah.
Because she's only close to Vince, pretty much.
Yeah, and like Kelley is not beneficial to anyone's games. So a vote to keep Kelley, honestly, is more about a vote in retaliation against the person she's up against. Like nobody is like, we have to keep Kelley, except for Vince and maybe Adrian a little bit, who I can't really get a read on.
Yeah, Adrian is kind of going around in multiple different groups. He was much more included in conversations today than he was last night, but that's mostly because he went to bed last night pretty early. I mean, the sense I get is that he is more so in the camp of like, the Zays of the world in terms of where he's being included. But that's obviously not like where he probably should go long term. And if he is a fan of the game and as smart as he claims to be, then, he's probably just playing that up. But it's honestly hard to say because he's a bit of a chameleon in these conversations and it's not exactly clear where he actually stands. So all of this is going on, of course. And again, it's very sort of just up in the air where people are actually going to fall, and we are still waiting to see where it's all going to land. Now, there are a bunch of talks of potential new alliances being formed. Will is still talking about forming the one that he talked with Mickey. He talked with Keanu about it a little bit. It was pretty funny because he's like, Will is like, maybe we can do something with Mickey. And Keanu's like, Yes. And then also, what about a couple of other people? And Will is like, don't make it too big. Make it too big. And Keanu's like, but 10.
But we need 10.
Very Jag of him.
Stop. I actually almost invoked Jag's name earlier in this podcast and then decided against it. But it's funny that you bring him up. I like very one track minded on the big alliance. I have faith in Will. I think the thing that my big takeaway last night was because Vince is such a weak HOH, the house is so fluid right now. Like there's so much fluidity. It's very much just little pockets of people who like each other and want to work together. And if we get a solid HOH next week, I think things will solidify a lot more. But right now it is kind of just like everybody looking at each other and being like, should we not? You know, there was like Will's been involved in many conversations about different alliances. Zay approached him at one point. Ava approached like a have not alliance. And I really don't feel strongly, Taran, about any of them having legs. Like I did not get a sense from any of them that anything was anything to watch. And I don't think that we will be able to until we have a new HOH.
Yes, exactly. And one thing to note is that many of the alliances discussed today, Zach was involved in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's we talked in the roundtable. I said that Zach is the best position player in the house. And then after the roundtable, like it was even further confirmed. Like he had a conversation with players like Will and Ava and Adrian. And he talked to Ashley, and they were just like a bunch of people that are like, let's form an alliance and include Zach, or Zach talking to somebody about forming an alliance. Could this backfire on him at some point? Maybe. But when you have players like Keanu and Jimmy in the house, Zach being just a bit more laid back in general, while still playing just as hard, is going to come off a lot better, in my opinion. So
totally. I was in the chat when you guys were talking about him. I had the luxury of watching feeds for the 2 hours that you guys were podcasting, doing the Lord's work. And I was in the chat saying 8. Like, I don't shoot the messenger, guys, but he's playing really well. He's in every conversation. And he knows how to keep his mouth shut. There was a conversation that he had with Morgan in the pantry where she was freaking out and she was like, and I don't like being called a snake. I don't like that. And was like, kind of, like going and going and going. And he was really talking her down, and she left the pantry and he was on his way out and he looked at the camera and went, like he has a sense, like there is a personality in there. Obviously him, discounting someone like Amy, saying Rachel Reilly, who invented the modern way that we use the term floater, is a floater. Like, learn the ancient tech stack, but he is playing good. He does have, I do think he has like hot, young, athletic guy privilege who's not like a huge personality.
Yeah, and pocket veto privilege as well. He knows he's safe if he's ever in trouble. But the something else to point out about Zach, I think, obviously I've talked about the Amy comments and all of that. But when I say that Adrian is a bit of a chameleon, Zach is too. Like Zach making those comments was up in the HOH room with people like Jimmy, when, you're kind of being mean, like you're trying to trash talking, like in that vibe, he fit in and he was making mean jokes and talking in a mean way. When he's talking to people who are less mean, he does not seem to have that gear, at least as we've seen so far. And he's able to kind of talk like he's like a nice guy. And so
totally
that is important, obviously.
I think he's playing really well. I think he's one to watch. I think we can pencil him in if this continues, and the guy is a pocket veto. I think we can pencil him in for 7, like for real. But we'll see. You never know. Things change. But I do feel like 24 hours watching Vince play versus 24 hours watching Zach play is night and day.
Yes. We also, speaking of Zach, had some more of the showmancy development. There's a little bit of a budding potential love triangle situation happening. People in the house have noticed it a little bit. People watching have noticed it a little bit. We heard yesterday from Morgan that Zach really liked Lauren and that she was trying to flirt with him in order to distract him from that, to stop him from going in that direction, but she's not sure it's working. Which,
you know how that goes when you know a guy likes someone, so you flirt with him to try to discourage him from liking that person for strategy. Yeah, that's totally how that works.
we saw a bit of that flirting yesterday, today on the feeds for day 7. It was she definitely is flirting occasionally with Zach, but he is like, while that's happening, talking about how hot Lauren is. So that's a little strange. There has been some speculation that, yes, as the chat is pointing out, that like, is Lauren actually into Zach? We still haven't heard much from her in the way of interest. However, they did flirt a little bit. There was a scene with Ashley in the bathroom where she's like, people are asking me about if you guys are into showmance, and they're like giggling, like, that's so funny, haha. And it was very awkward. And they were like, was Morgan the one asking? So like, this is a little bit of a thing. This is a little bit of a thing.
Yeah. And you know, I haven't seen enough of the way that Lauren feels about it to know for sure if she is interested or not. Like, I don't want to say she's certainly not interested, because sometimes
it's a common trope for the fans to assume that the woman is not interested, and then it turns out she's interested.
But also though, like, she, you know, her saying like he's not her type. Like, yeah, that's something that you would say on day 6 about a guy when you're trying to play a game, that like you're trying to downplay maybe how much you like him, or if you are interested. Like, I'm not saying don't take her at face value, but she has not said like, I'm not interested in Zach. Saying somebody's not her type does not mean like, no, I have no interest in him.
Also, you can like someone that's not your type.
Exactly.
Yeah. Even if it was true. So yeah, that's going on. Still TBD, I think, as far as that's all concerned. And let's see, what else should we hit here? Of course, big events. Keanu being so suspicious of Rachel. Vince is going to try to help confirm that. Rachel does go and talk to him and lets him know, hey, just so you know, your pal Vince nearly put you up, and I had to talk him down. And a lot of this information about Jimmy is coming from Zay, and Zay's been trying to rally votes to get you out. And of course, all of this is in an attempt to not only win Keanu to her side, but to convince him to vote Zay out this week over Amy. And she's trying to drill this into his brain, and it's all true information for the most part. He did seem fairly skeptical at first. It seemed like it was starting to sink in, and later on, he does question both Vince and Zay about the information, and they don't have great explanations.
I also the whole thing, like, she tells him all of that, and she's like, "Yeah, your boy Zay, your boy has been going around saying all this stuff as she's doing her arm raises." Like, it's just. Rachel Reilly is she's just a perfect person on my TV. And she's like, get your head in the game, get it together. She's basically like, come on. And she goes, I want you here. I want you. You're my personal trainer. I need you to stay here. I need to get in shape. And she's also like, and now please don't go around and telling everybody Rachel said this. Please don't do that. And he's like, I won't do that. She's like, just slow play it. Use this information. Like, it's Big Brother. Come on. Immediately it goes down and is like, so I got to get to the bottom of something. Someone, I'm not saying who, was saying, like, when he goes up to talk to Vince, he was like, so I have a question. Was Zay targeting me? And Vince like skirts around the question. And then he goes, okay, well, I have one more question. Did Rachel tell you not to put me up? And Vince is like, yeah, that happened today. And he goes, okay, so now I do believe the stuff about Zay. And it's like, oh, I wonder where that came from.
I mean,
you idiot. Ugh.
Let's give Rachel some credit, though. She at least was
Yes.
cognizant enough to give him marching orders, which I think most people would not think to do.
I'm giving Rachel a ton of credit. I love this style of gameplay, actually, where you kind of just like declare something. Like she's just been saying all week, like, no, I'm not voting Amy out. Like, I'm not, and she's Rachel, so she has more eyes on her. So now people are like, well, we'll get Amy out as an attack on Rachel. But her just being like, no, Zay said this to me. I was telling Vince, do not put him up. Like her being so direct with true information, I think is like a really fun way to watch someone play, and also not a bad way to play.
I honestly think one of my fears if I was playing the game is that I would not be direct enough because I would just assume that the person I'm talking to understands that they shouldn't blab about a certain thing.
Yeah.
And that I wouldn't say, I would feel like, oh, I don't want to insult the person by saying, obviously don't tell. Like, for instance, when I talked to people about my book before I was public, I felt very uncomfortable about being like, also, this is a secret. So I either would hope that they assumed it or try to work it in the conversation in a subtle way. Like, yeah, can't wait to announce it publicly at the start of BB27. So I didn't have to outright say, please don't say anything.
You didn't want me to tweet about it, Taran? That's surprising. I was going to. Yeah, it was just so like, Keanu has the subtlety of a hammer, but this is the thing, right? Like Keanu being like, Vince, did you say this about Rachel? And him being like, yeah. And him being like, okay, well now I believe it about Zay. Vince didn't pick up on it, it seems. Vince had no understanding like, oh, obviously he's fact checking the Rachel thing. So that must have come from Rachel. Vince just kept being like, oh no, that wasn't yesterday. That was today. Like trying to correct the fact of it rather than maybe thinking a half step forward and being like, well, where did you know? Who else knows that Rachel said that to me? Rachel. I can't like, this is why I'm like, this guy has not watched the show. I refuse to believe that. I refuse.
Yeah. Well, so with that, Keanu does seem to have been swayed to the idea of potentially voting out Zay, of potentially like maybe Rachel's telling me the truth. You can't take anything locked in though, especially with Keanu. So, keep that in mind. We also did hear from Lauren and Catherine a bit. They talked to Jimmy about like where the vote was. They seemed to imply that they were definitely leaning more so against Kelley than Amy. And, certainly they'd be theoretically looking at Zay. Jimmy is very much pro Zay, but kind of indifferent at best when it comes to Amy versus Kelley. I think because he'd kind of actually prefer for Kelley to leave, but doesn't want to snake his guy Vince in that situation. So, that's still, yet to be determined. Another thing that happened, by the way, with Jimmy after the veto ceremony is that he had also called out Amy for also saying his name. And we know that he had learned that from Vince. And so she was like crying to him like, whoa, my feelings are hurt. And he's like, my feelings were hurt too. And they have this whole conversation to hash it out. And Jimmy does what I assume he did with Keanu, the same tactic. Only this time we got to see it, where he basically was like, well, I heard this and that's why I said this, and I was hurt and that's why I said it. And I think this is a good tactic. This is because Jimmy is so upfront with his feelings and will say, this is why I did this. I felt hurt. Here I am now. Reminded me a little bit of Bailey BB 12, who's like able to sort of like really address things head on. But the problem is that unlike Bailey, Jimmy also seems very wolfy. And it worked on Keanu. It did not work on Amy.
And Jimmy does this thing that if I was in the house would drive me crazy. Like, honestly, this is the thing that as like a game player perked my ears, is when he'll describe situations, he'll just kind of like throw in something that he did. Like he'll be like, well, when I like brokered the deal for safety for you guys or for the other people who were when I like, because I gave Vince the chance to win HOH, because I gave Vince the opportunity to hold the power, like he will subtly put in like his contribution to what is going on. I think sort of like trying to establish his power. And I would not like that if I was in the house. I really wouldn't. I don't think that it is, I can't tell you if it's good or not good, like social, like I can't tell you if it's making people maybe respect him a little bit more or what, but I think that if I was in the house, that would be really grating on me. And that would be something that I would be talking in the DR about and be like, oh, because you were in charge of all of these things, even though you're holding no real power this week, even though you didn't win any competitions, even though like, okay. So I that is something to watch, I think. Because I also think he would stand 10 toes down on the fact that he does genuinely believe that he contributed to Vince's HOH win because he gave him the opportunity to play.
Oh, certainly. Yes. So that's where many of these people stand. We also, in heavier news, had our first slur of the season from Zay.
I didn't know this.
Maggie, I almost didn't catch this. People were, I feel like there were people talking about it, but, with the freaking people, ableist slur, the R word used by Zay while playing chess last night. He immediately caught himself and said, oh, I shouldn't say that word. That's one of the ones I'm trying to work on. Which is, I guess, better than nothing.
It is, at least in the moment, was like, shouldn't do that. But also, I don't know, that word, I think, growing up, I graduated high school in 2013. That word was very normalized when I was growing up. It was like another, it was in the sort of zeitgeist. And then as I got older, I never hear anybody say that at all. So the fact that it's in the vocabulary is not great and not, in fact, not great. It's quite terrible. And don't do that again, please. That's terrible.
Yes, of course. We had a specific incident of this happening during BB25, which was also the season where Luke was ejected from the game. And there were some pushes like, hey, if Luke is ejected, does this word also get you ejected? And producers basically were completely silent on it. So I would expect the same to be true here, but it is certainly not something that should be said at any time or in the house. And personally, if they were to eject somebody for saying this word, I would agree with that decision. But that did happen. He was talking with Keanu, playing chess with Keanu, I guess. And Keanu's response was like, "You're lucky it's late. The cameras might not be on you." To which I was like, "It's the opposite. It's late. There's nobody else to focus on. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, another reason I couldn't play Big Brother. Somebody would say something like that. The HOH could say something like that, and I would say, excuse me, don't say that ever again." Get myself put on the block.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it would be I think that people are too scared to like have a hard stance on stuff like that to people in person. I think that it's like, hold your ground. You know what I mean? Like, I think if Keanu was like, whoa, don't say that. I don't think Zay's going to be like, well, damn, now I need to get out Keanu, Yeah,
I think that he would just be really embarrassed, and as he should be, because
I mean, the only scenario where that would happen is if Zay went to somebody else and was like, can you believe Keanu was mad at me for saying this word? And then that person agreed with them. Then that would be a problem.
Well, I think that would be a problem for their life. I think that would be a problem for their job security. Anyways.
Yes. And yes, just to be clear as well, Keanu did say, like, he agreed, like, you should not be saying that word.
Yeah.
It just also added, like, maybe the cameras didn't catch it and you're going to get lucky. So yes, there we go. It wouldn't be a Big Brother season without one of these.
The only person on this list that we haven't really talked much about is Ava. And I did just want to say yesterday, she was doing a lot of eyes open, mouth closed, in my opinion. She's not talking too much. She sort of in the morning had this recognition like, not sure I can trust Jimmy. That sucks. I think I've been telling him a lot of stuff, she wanted to try to get something going with the Have Not boys. She's working on these individual relationships, and I think that she has a good head on her shoulders. Even when she was telling like
and
the
a good
Have
hat
Not
on her head.
and a good many a hat on her head. I wonder if she has like a top of her head. I wonder if we'll see it.
This exposed brain. Is the hat her head?
Have you ever heard that poem about the green ribbon? Like that's the hat on her.
I have not, but I can imagine.
Oh man. Oh my gosh, sorry. Curse in the chat said not Ava being like Gio from 90 Day Fiance. If you know, that's the funniest thing. I'm so sorry. We're going off the rails now. I feel honestly at the beginning of the day, I was like, oh, she might be getting left behind. But by the end of the day, I was like, okay, I do think maybe once the house calms down a little bit and these bigger characters are kind of weeding themselves out, she'll be able to sneak in there and find some footing. Her, Catherine, and Lauren are all people that I was like, I do think there's game sense here. I don't know if they'll be able to execute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that she is another player who has been able to talk to a bunch of different sort of sides, I guess, of the house. And it's not 100% clear which one she actually falls on. Her, unlike if Adrian, I'd lean toward the bros. Her, I would lean toward the women. But it's not like 100% clear yet. And so, I think that this vote, again, is still pretty, I keep saying it's up in the air. If I had to pick, right after the ceremony, I would have said Amy might be in trouble. If I had to pick right now, I'd lean more toward Kelley is more in trouble. Zay, I don't know. Zay is a little bit.
I think Zay could be in trouble.
Trickier. He definitely could be in trouble. It's so just because like Kelley versus Amy is more so like the Vince versus Rachel fight, right? But Zay versus anybody else is more so all of the women, or not all of the women, but many of the women versus many of the men. And so that one gets trickier because I
think with Zay, Rachel, Morgan, Mickey, Catherine has said she would vote him out. If Amy's off the block, Amy votes him out. Ashley votes him out. Like we're looking at Ava. We're getting at that 7. It is
exactly.
Right, very, very tight. And Keanu, if Rachel can get Keanu over.
And so the tricky part for me is that the thing with Zay as opposed to, say, Kelley, is that Zay has so much more support and there will be more pushback. If the guys start recognizing that it's a very close, like 7-8 vote kind of situation, they are going to really push their connections. Zach in particular is going to be like, hey, he's going to be pulling anybody that he can. It's going to get harder, and within the specific alliance that people are in, like the heavy hitters and stuff like that, they are completely at odds there, and so they might be leveraging those connections. So the Zay vote is technically close right now, but I think the battle hasn't quite been fought yet, whereas the Kelley Amy situation I think is a little more lax in terms of where people might actually land.
I also think Zay is campaigning very hard already. And that can go one of two ways. Like people can get annoyed, and I'm not sure that Zay is like the most talented game player in there. So there's absolutely opportunity for him to fumble, like already saying if anyone votes against him, like he'll put them on the block. Like that's not great. But also I could see just even him being out there and working really hard, that being a huge point in his favor. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm excited to see where it goes. How fun if we get like a 7 or an 8-6 vote, the first vote.
Vince would die if it were 7-7. He said as
Taran,
much.
what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about him?
Just keep watching, I guess. When he's not HOH, I think he'll be a lot more tolerable to me.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
We will see. Anything else, Maggie, that you wanted to bring up from yesterday?
No, I thought we might be going a little longer. So I am happy that we're getting out of here in 1:24. I don't need to add anything else to this. If you haven't listened to the roundtable last night, people should listen to that. Everybody, Puya and Melissa and Taran were all great talking about everybody. If you want a little more in depth for each person. I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. A good mix of people who know what they're doing and people who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. I am feeling a little nervous about HOH next week. Like, I think a Jimmy HOH could be very fun. I think, a Keanu HOH, I don't even know what he would do. Obviously, I would love a Rachel HOH, but I think if we get like a Zach HOH or a Zay HOH or even an Adrian HOH, like, no. So, yeah, we'll see how this all plays out. I do like the way that a lot of these women are moving, I have to say.
If we don't get at least one Rachel HOH this season, I'll be very disappointed.
Oh, we're going to get a Rachel HOH. We're going to get it. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you then today. I will, of course, be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 27 live feeds. It will be day 8 today. So tune in tomorrow to hear about that. I'm hoping that we have a much better idea of where the votes are falling by then. But honestly, given the pace at which they're campaigning right now, it wouldn't surprise me if we don't have a decent idea until like Thursday morning. And we are maybe even going to be talking Thursday morning about how it's still not locked in.
I don't know that it will be, also because they're talking about how stressed they are that they don't have time to talk about it after. So even if some of these people, like, I could see somebody not really deciding and then in the moment making a random, like, say it's Amy versus Zay and Amy gives like a really impassioned speech and, someone like Reilly is like, I want to keep Amy, like I could see something like that happening. We obviously had that happen a lot in BB26. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So stay tuned for all of that. Of course, if you want to check out the book Behind the Mirror, you can pre-order it at taranarmstrong.com. You can get a signed copy from my local bookstore there. You can also order it from Amazon or Barnes & Noble, wherever you want to get your books. And check out YouTube, Twitch. I just finished my 24-hour live stream on Twitch last night, watching the first 24 hours of feeds. It was a very good time, and you can still check out some of the VOD if you're interested in any of that. And that's about it. Maggie, where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me on social media at mlmorgan_, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, but only come on Blue Sky if you're going to be nice. I'm having fun. I don't want to have to lose it. Yeah, I'm around. Big Brother season's here. Very, very, very exciting.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today, and I will see all of you next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.